Raiders offense shows signs of life in practice number 6. We'll tell you about that, plus a whole lot more on Thursday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for August 1st, 2024.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. As always, if you're giving us a look on YouTube, we appreciate that. Subscriptions are up to almost 15,000 already on our YouTube page, so we definitely appreciate that. If you have not hit the subscribe button yet, go on and do something good for your country, man. Check it out. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button. Do something good for your boy, man. Help me out, all right? Definitely appreciate that. Of course, appreciate the support of Raider Nation. And my man Ari does a great job each and every day, making sure we're on YouTube, making sure we're looking good, and we're sounding good. You can check him out on Twitter, at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well, at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Your calls and texts are coming up in segment number 3. Bunch of different subjects we talked about. Everything have to do with Raiders training camp, and as they're trying to put this team together for 2024, you'll hear those calls and texts coming up in segment number 3. Segment number 2 is funny. We actually got a comment on the Locked On Raiders podcast YouTube page, which normally I don't really check out the comments, but for some reason I wanted to check something out, and I saw the comment, and it came from a statement that I made on Wednesday's show, and it was about the quarterbacks and one quarterback deciding to take control of the situation and decide that they're going to be the man. How is that possible? We'll explain that coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Here in segment number 1, we'll jump into the news and notes of the day. And, of course, we'll do that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. And as we jump into recapping day 6 of Raiders training camp and the second padded practice, I also got to make sure you remember that, well, today is the first of the month. So you got to wake up. It's the first of the month. You got to celebrate the hood holiday around here, right? I used to get on my guy, Zach Burke, who I worked with back at ESPN Central Texas, because the first of the month is you can only possibly celebrate the first of the month 12 times a year. And you know the first doesn't always happen Monday through Friday. So I used to always get mad at him and be like, wait, hold on. How did you not start the show with the first of the month when it's the first of the month? He's like, oh, I forgot. I was like, dude, there's only 12 of them that you could possibly have all year, and you're not going to get all 12. They're not all going to land Monday through Friday, so you got to remember to celebrate the hood holiday. But I do realize that every once in a while, I myself forget to celebrate the hood holiday, and we can't do that. So again, wake up. It's the first of the month. And as it's the first of the month, the Raiders are actually off today, right? That's how they're celebrating the hood holiday. They had 2 padded practices in a row. They'll probably have some, glorified walkthrough, little team bonding experience today, and then they'll be back on the practice field at Jack Hammett on Friday. So there's no media availability. There won't be any 1-minute recap following practice like I've been doing each and every day. There won't be any of that today. We'll get back at it on Friday, but it's good. It gives us a perfect time to talk about what we saw on Wednesday. So there were some positives, especially from the offensive side of things. It's the second padded practice. Antonio Pierce said on, on Tuesday, as a matter of fact, he said that he felt that the offensive line was really going to benefit from putting on the pads. Well, I'll tell you, the second padded practice, you started to see the offensive line really have a lot more, power off the line. They were given a lot more push off the line of scrimmage. And, there was a point of the practice where AP basically called out the defense and said, you're flat. And he used other colorful words as well, but I'm not going to do that because it's a family show. But just let it be known he wasn't happy with the performance that he saw from the defense, to the point where he said, Max, what's up with your guys? Max, let's get your guys going. And then you heard Max Crosby say, hey, let's turn it up. The next play, Max didn't really get any penetration either. The offensive line really stood him up. But then the following play, all of a sudden he got to Aiden O'Connell. So you saw that Max was trying to lead by example and also encouraging his teammates, his brothers on that side of the ball, the defensive side of the ball, to step their game up. But the offensive line looked much better. Thayer Munford, he looks really good. There was one point where they really blew up the defensive line, made a nice hole for Zamir White to run through, and Thayer Munford just turned around, looked at his offensive line coach, James Craig, and said, gave out a big yell, right? I mean, he was just fired up and let it be known because, look, the defense has been chirping. They've been talking a lot of trash, and Thayer Munford wanted to let them know that he knows that they're talking trash, and he wants to let it be known that, hey, you can hear me roar as well. So Thayer Munford's looking good. Andrews Pete and Cody Whitehair, I think they're doing a good job right now, filling in for Colton Miller and JPJ, Jackson Powers Johnson, who are both still on the PUP list. So I think that those guys are doing a pretty good job. They're not guys that I think that the Raiders want to go into the start of the season with as the starters at the left tackle and left guard position. I don't think that they're going to have to be. I'm still assuming that JPJ is going to get back at some point. He has not as of yet. He's still on the PUP list. And Colton Miller, we already knew was going to be a couple weeks away. DJ Glaze, he actually went in for Thayer Munford a little bit, not on Wednesday, but on Tuesday when Thayer Munford got his hand kind of bent back and just a basic injury, nothing too major, but he left the field for a little while. DJ Glaze, the fourth round pick, or the third round pick, I should say, out of Maryland. Corian Bennett was the fourth round pick a year ago out of Maryland. But yeah, DJ Glaze, the offensive lineman, third round pick out of Maryland, he had to go in and fill in for Thayer Munford, and he caught some folks' attention. I'm not saying he's taken over a starting spot, but there were some folks on the sidelines at Raiders practice on Wednesday that were talking about him, including Tom Telesco, who thought he did a good job. Again, nothing to read into like it's too much. Like, here comes this rookie. Look out for DJ Glaze. He's about to be a monster. You might hear that somewhere, but that's not the conversation right now. He just did a good job filling in while Thayer Munford was out getting the hand kind of taped up and getting worked on before he returned to practice. So, again, moving on with some more positives from Wednesday's practice. The run game looked good. I think Zamir White is really comfortable with some pads on, right? He feels good about that opportunity to get behind the offensive line. Alexander Madison, I've said it before, I think those two guys are a really good 1-2 punch. And the guy that I think is going to be a contributor on offense sooner rather than later is Dylan Lobby, the 6th round pick out of New Hampshire. He looks good. I mean, he continues to look good. The Raiders continue to try to get the ball in his hands any way they could. The running backs, the running game, all look good. I'll say this, as far as the running game goes, and I think I spoke on it on Wednesday's show as well, they continue to get the ball into their playmakers' hands any way they can, even as they run the ball from the backfield. So there's been times when you've seen jet sweeps with Brock Bowers. You've seen guys like Devontae Adams get the ball in the backfield, Jacoby Myers. But really, Brock Bowers, I think they're going to really give a emphasis on trying to get him involved earlier than later, or sooner rather than later, I guess I should say, in the running game as well. So he's going to get a lot of touches. Let's put it like that. And as far as the quarterbacks go, because everyone's paying attention to the quarterbacks, on Wednesday was the day for Gardner Minshew to get the first crack with the ones, and he had a better day. He had a better day running the offense. Someone hit me up on Twitter and was like, hey, how did Aiden O'Connell look today? And I said, look, Gardner Minshew had the better day. Well, what do you mean better day? Well, I mean better day, right? I'm not saying that he was phenomenal. I'm not saying that he all of a sudden took control of the job and he's going to win the starting quarterback job, but he had a better day running the offense in general than Aiden O'Connell did. And again, he started off with the ones, and then Aiden O'Connell came in with the ones next. And the Raiders are doing a really good job of kind of splitting the reps with the ones, right? So everyone's getting their opportunity with the ones. It's not like Aiden O'Connell's just running with the ones solely and then Gardner Minshew with the twos or vice versa. So they're trying to split it up really good. Each and every day they keep rotating, and I think that that's good. Now the negative, the defensive line looked slow. It looked lethargic. I mentioned AP called them out, called them flat early on. They did bounce back and get a little bit better, but just to know that there's a possibility that the defense might not always be on their A-plus game, right? And so sometimes the offense, and this is what I'm thinking about in games, the offense is going to have to do some heavy lifting when the defense may not be just in their A game. And like I said, AP wasn't too happy with the efforts and the way that the defensive line looked early in practice. Also a negative, Trey Tucker. Again, deep ball, put on the ground. He's got the speed, man. He's got the speed to get behind just about any defender, but he's got to complete the play. It feels like to me when Trey Tucker's out there, it's the easier catch, the one where he's behind the defender and all he's got to do is make the catch, finish the play, is the one he puts on the ground. The one that he makes is the one that's the more difficult play, the one where he's not thinking. It just looks like Trey Tucker to me is thinking more than anything else. And it's really frustrating. I even told, I believe it was Paul Gutierrez on the sideline after he dropped one. I said, you know who he's reminding me of, and I hate to say it, is James Jett. Remember James Jetten. Anyone who's an old school Raider fan, I say old school, but an older Raider fan who remembers James Jets understands how frustrating he was. He had all the speed in the world, and then he'd put the ball on the ground. Right, and then it'd be the one that you don't think he's going to catch that he would catch. And I don't know why that is. It happens more times than not. You see guys go for the easy catch and they drop it, and then the guys that are going for the difficult catches, they make it almost look easy. So Trey Tucker is not having a very good camp in general. And again, he put a couple balls on the ground on Wednesday, so that's not good. Also a negative, and I mentioned it earlier, JPJ is still not activated from the PUP list. Antonio Pierce let it be known without saying it's a concussion that he's dealing with, that it's a concussion, right? He's talking about the sunglasses being removed, the cool down mode, the football mode. He's ramping back up. To me, my concern level is about a 6 right now when it comes to JPJ, only because going back to school, he had issues with injuries as well, including concussions, and you just hate to see that, especially for an offensive lineman. You know how many times an offensive lineman's going to get his head and his bell rung, and that's the old school saying of getting a concussion is a bell rung, and I just hate to see that for him as far as health goes. Plus, the Raiders are going to need him. I mean, he's a guy who's expected to be a starter. So for right now, for JPJ, my concern level is at a 6. We'll see when he returns. Maybe he'll get activated today. Maybe he'll get activated on Friday and get back to practice. Maybe he'll be on Saturday. Not too sure, but him not being back for me is a concern. And also one more negative before we get into segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Jacorian Bennett, he's having a really good camp. He got called for multiple PIs on Wednesday, and I'll tell you, and I know everyone's like, oh, you always lean toward the defensive backs. And maybe I do, right? I'll take that. I thought that those PIs were pretty suspect, right? And JB a couple times was like, come on, what do I got to do? What are we calling here? Right? We're calling PIs. And there was even one time that, and they have officials. They've had officials that practice the last couple days. There was one time when the official threw a flag when they were going through a special teams period, and Tom McMahon, the special teams coordinator, said, hey, we're trying to get work in. Let them play. So he's like, don't throw that when we're trying to work on the special teams kicking unit and all that. So he had to bark at the officials. Max Crosby barked at the officials a few times, and Jacorian Bennett got called for those PIs a few times. And again, to me, it looked like it was a pretty bad call. Like, I didn't see a PI there. And that's been a couple times now that there's been PIs called, whether it's defending Devontae Adams, defending Jacoby Myers, or whoever the case may be. It seems like the officials that are in camp right now are very offensive friendly. Let's put it like that. And then just to kind of put a bow on the recap of practice on Wednesday, it was a special teams day. We actually talked to special teams coordinator Tom McMahon before practice started, and they're just continuing to tinker and experiment with the new kickoff rule. And there was a lot of emphasis in practice on kickoff, kick return, kickoff. They've been working on so many different looks, so many different formats from different guys kicking, different guys back there receiving, kicking the ball like a knuckleball, and then it bounced a couple times, and that ball ate up a couple returners. It ate up Nate Hobbs one time, and he was not too happy. And there's been a couple other returners that have muffed the kickoff, just because as kickoff return guys, because it's just so difficult to pick it up, especially once the ball bounces a couple times. So they're continuing to tinker with it. They're continuing to work with it, but there's a ton of emphasis on special teams. So that's what I got for you. A little bit of a recap. Probably the best day that the Raiders offense had in training camp so far. Nothing to write home about and think, okay, they figured it out there. The light has switched, they've snapped their fingers and all of a sudden the switch is flipped. Nothing like that, but the best day of practice they've had so far. We'll see what it looks like on Friday. Coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. I said it on Wednesday's show, and I mean it, right? Some quarterback needs to decide that they're taking the job. They're going to be the man. But how can they make that decision? We'll talk about it coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace in Major League Baseball. It makes getting tickets faster and easier. Prices on Gametime app, they actually go down the closer it gets to the first pitch. Great last-minute deals, all-in prices, even views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime will take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets. But it's not exclusive to Major League Baseball or sports in general. You can get tickets to concerts, comedy shows, theater, whatever the case may be. The key is the closer to the event start time, the better the deal is going to be. Flash deals, zone deals, all-in prices. They even have the views from your seat. I love it. You actually see what it looks like to sit in those seats before you pull the trigger and buy the actual tickets. Plus, they have a lowest price guarantee. If not, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticket industry. Right now, take the guesswork out of buying Major League Baseball tickets or any tickets with Gametime. Download the app, create an account, use promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. The terms apply. Again, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to talk about how a quarterback, Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew in this situation, since they're the ones in the quarterback competition, how one of those guys could decide that, you know what, enough is enough. I'm going to be the guy. And it's funny, I very rarely go on the Locked On Raiders podcast YouTube page, but there was something I was going there to check out, and I happened to just come across this question, or not even a question, it was a statement that was on there, just a comment that was underneath the show, and I guess it was just meant to be, right? Because again, rarely these things even pop up and I even see them, but this one stood out to me, and I thought it was pretty good, and I thought it was a valid statement, and I definitely have a great answer and a great response for it. So this is how it goes down. The statement said, I don't understand how can a quarterback just say that he is the man for the job. It's the job of the coach to say who's the starting quarterback. Don't expect the quarterback to do your job. Just make the choice and let the starting quarterback take bulk of the reps with the first team. And again, this goes back to what I said on Wednesday's show, that at some point, as AP has said, that one of these quarterbacks got to take the bull by the horns. I said, you know what? A quarterback's got to just at some point say, enough's enough. I'm going to be the guy. I'm the best guy for the job, and I'm going to go out there and show it, and I'm going to earn that job right now. Enough playing around, enough, supporting Aiden or supporting Gardner, and being, good teammates. And no, look, this is a competition. You want to start. He wants to start. Someone go get that job. Like, don't downplay this and don't slow play this. And this is not to discredit the statement that was made on the Locked On Raiders podcast YouTube page at all. Because again, I think it's a very valid statement, because you could say, well, you can't just say you're going to be the guy, or anybody would do it. Like anybody would say, hey, I'm going to be a star NBA player, a star baseball player. I'm going to be a starting quarterback in the National Football League. It's not that easy. But what I mean by that, and it's funny that I came across this statement, because on Wednesday at the practice facility, I say it all the time, I talk to guys like Eric Allen, Lincoln Kennedy, right? I talk to anybody that I see that, has a wealth of knowledge. And again, I like to say that the best talker is the best listener. So a lot of times I'll ask a question or make a statement and then listen to the response to the guys that have been there, done that. That's how I learn a lot, by listening, because I know that I don't know everything. But I made that same statement that I made on Wednesday. I made that comment to Eric Allen on Wednesday, during practice. And I said, look, at some point, someone's just got to take the job and say it's mine, and say enough playing around. And EA looked at me, longtime NFL dude, right? Cornerback stud, a guy that has a great opportunity to go to the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and said, you're absolutely right. Somebody has got to do it. It's got to be in their mindset. So what I mean by that is it's got to be in the mindset. And my son plays basketball right now at Portland State, and I try to tell him all the time, I can't go out there and shoot the hoops for him. I can't play defense for him. I can't rebound the ball for him. All I could do is give him words of encouragement. And what I tell him all the time is, son, you have to go into every single game, every single practice, like you're the baddest dude on the court. I don't care who you're playing against. I don't care who it is. Right. And I used to tell him this even back in high school. And he played against guys like Jalen Green, who went, number 2 overall to the Houston Rockets not too long ago. I mean, he played against guys like that. And there was a time when he played against them, and you could tell that he was kind of in awe because Jalen Green was so good. And I was like, what are you doing? Well, the scouts were there to watch Jalen Green. I said, yeah, but make them watch you. Make them watch you. Say, yeah, Jalen Green's really good, but I'm better. And just go out there and do it. That's the mentality. I'm not saying that, my son was more talented than Jalen Green. But if you go out there with the mindset that you're the baddest dude on the court, and not in an arrogant, cocky way, but just in a confident way, that goes a long way. And I say this all the time. When I'm behind the mic, when I'm on the radio, when I'm doing a podcast, I don't think anyone's better than me, ever. I don't think there's anybody that's better than me. I think I can hang with any single person that does what I do. Now, I know that there's people that are more talented than me. I know that there's people that use fancier words than me. I know that there's a lot of people that have way more accolades than I do. But I feel like I can run with anybody, but that's my mindset. That's in my mind. I don't ever want to feel like I'm inferior to anyone. And nobody should want to feel that way. We should all carry that mindset, but we all don't. So when I look at this quarterback competition, whether it's Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew, I don't really care. Right? I've already said I think Aiden's going to win the job. Gardner looked better on Wednesday, but that doesn't mean he's going to look better on Friday. And to be honest, no quarterback has taken a lead in this quarterback competition as of yet. And they've been in practice. They have 6 practices under their belt, not to mention OTAs, not to mention mandatory minicamp. They've got all that under the belt that the coaches could see and evaluate. And at this stage of the game, nobody is taking a lead. So one of those two dudes has to just say, you know what? This is my job. I'm the best quarterback to lead this team, and this is why. And I'm going to go out there and show it. And don't go out there and think. Just go out there and play. What it feels like to me right now, and this is just me observing from the sideline, is that they're trying to be either too perfect or they're trying to do, not make a mistake. I guess that's probably the better way to put it. Instead of being too perfect, they're not trying to make a mistake. Instead of just going out there and playing ball. And playing ball at the level that they know how to do it. Aiden O'Connell, we know what he's got. He's got the stronger arm. He's taller in the pocket, right? He's probably more accurate than Gardner Minshew, and we know what Gardner Minshew has. A little bit more athleticism, a little bit more backyard ball to him. He's a guy that's just he's I want to say like a gamer, right? We get that. So there's great qualities in Minshew. There's great qualities in Aiden O'Connell. One of these two dudes just has to decide that, okay, I'm done with this competition. I'm ready to take the bull by the horns, as the head coach Antonio Pierce has said, and I'm going to show and prove why it's my job. They have to take the field with that mindset. Again, it's not a disrespectful mindset. It's not a cocky. It's not an arrogant one, but it's just a confident one that today I'm going to show why this is my job. Right? When I decided that I was going to go from being in Central Texas at ESPN, I was going to make my way to Las Vegas, I gave myself 6 months. I said by June 1st, I'm going to be working in Las Vegas. That is my goal. And if I don't do it, I've failed. And the reason why, because they need me. When I got the job in Vegas, I told them I could make you guys better, and this is why. Right? Again, it wasn't arrogant. It wasn't cocky. It wasn't like I was walking around, with my Conor McGregor arms swinging and all that. It wasn't that. I just knew what I brought to the table, and I knew I could be a huge asset, and I knew how I could be a huge asset. That's what those dudes need to do. So, again, it's not like they could just go in and be like, AP, it's my job. I'm the starting quarterback. So, yes, AP has to make the decision, but he wants to see them go out there with that mindset of alpha dog, leader of the team, right? There was a point when back in the day when I say back in the day, it wasn't that long ago, right? The Raiders didn't really have alpha dogs, right? There was a time when like Max Crosby was the only alpha dog. Now you look at the defense and you see all these alphas. Well, who's the alpha on offense right now? Devontae Adams. That's who the alpha is. The offensive line, Colton Miller when he's out there, right? I mean, and Brock Bowers has the alpha dog mentality, but he's a rookie, so he's got to go out there and prove it. One of these quarterbacks has got to be the alpha. They have to. They have to be the one that is willing to lead this team and have the confidence and the ability to lead them the way that they need to be led. Look at this team and say, look at the defense. Look what I'm working with. Look at the weapons around, and this is how I'm going to go maximize it. Whether it's Aiden standing in the pocket, delivering the ball quicker, right? Because right now that's his biggest problem. He's holding on to the ball too long. I don't know how many times me and Paul get to here is look at each other and go, dead. Like he'll snap the ball, hike the ball, and we'll look. He's looking, and Paul will say dead, or I'll say dead. That means you're sacked. More times than not that's happened. There was even a pass that happened on Tuesday, I should say. That was, I think Aiden O'Connell hit maybe Trey Tucker or hit someone deep down the field, but it definitely would have been a sack, right? I mean, it was well after the rusher got to the quarterback. Got to get the ball out of his hand quicker, right? And that comes with confidence. So, again, AP's got to make the decision. Tom Telesco's going to help him. The rest of the coaching staff is going to help him, but He's got to help himself. And when I say he, I mean either one of the guys, Minshew or O'Connell. They have got to go in there with that I'm better than this guy mentality, and I'm going to go out there and show it. I'm going to go out there and find a way to get Devontae the ball consistently. I'm going to find a way to get the ball to Jacoby in a position where they can not only catch the ball, but get yards after the catch. I'm going to use Brock Bowers as that weapon that everyone talked about coming out of Georgia, right? I'm going to make life easier on the offensive line, right? I'm going to use my running game so then I can do the play action pass and be dominant, right? Just like Trey Tucker, I talk about his drops. He needs to just get out of his own head. He's in his head right now. That's why he's putting him on the ground. He's not in the NFL because he can't catch, right? I mean, the dude's a speedster. He's got hands. He can do it. He's just thinking about it. He's trying not to make mistakes. Just go play. AP says it all the time. Just go play. Have fun. Do it with joy. When you do that, you're going to be more successful. These two guys, Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew, haven't done that yet. So when you ask, I don't understand how a quarterback could just say that he's the man for the job. Just say enough is enough. I'm done playing around. I'm done trying to be too perfect. I'm going to do what got me here, right? I'm in the league because at one point I was the best at what I did. There's not one dude in the league that somewhere along the line in between when he started playing this game to where he's at right now that he wasn't the best on his team. I'm not saying it was in the NFL. I'm not saying it was even in college. But all these guys that are in the league on all 32 teams, every single one of these guys at some stage in their life was the best at what they do on their team. It could be in high school. It could have been in middle school. It could have been, I don't know, Pop Warner, whatever. But you could there's traits that you could see in every one of these guys where at one point they were the best. Obviously, as they continue to evolve, then they become not the best at everything, right? Because everybody in the league is the best of the best. But you have to go and show that mentality that got you there. So when I say go take that job, it's all upstairs. It's all upstairs. If you don't have the mentality that you're QB1 and that you're the alpha and you're going to take the Raiders where they need to go with all those weapons they have, then you're probably not going to do it. You're probably going to fail. That's what I mean by that. So you're not wrong in the statement that you made. I'm glad that you did because it got the juices flowing on the conversation. But that's what it has to be. And it's funny, I had just mentioned that to Eric Allen on Wednesday. Someone's got to take that job. And he's like, that's right. You've got to have that mentality. If you don't, you're cooked from the jump. It's just that simple. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts are next. 707-654-4693. That's the Locked On Raiders podcast line. We'll get to that after I tell you about FanDuel. And, well, if you listen to this show for any amount of time, I just love sports. I love them whenever I can get them. And right now, get all kind of sports thanks to the Olympics are going on. And then also, did you know that the Ocho, ESPN's bringing back the Ocho, like 56 hours of sports that aren't even sports that we normally talk about. They're bringing those back again the next 56 hours, basically over the weekend. It's going to be really cool to check it out. A lot of sports that you just don't normally think about. They have that, the ESPN, the Ocho. But, my basic point is I love sports so much that I'm always looking for them. FanDuel helps me keep sports going all summer long, even when there's not a whole lot of sports. Oh, by the way, the Hall of Fame game is tonight too. So preseason football is officially back. But if I want to just go ahead and keep sports going, all I got to do is use the FanDuel app, open up the app, and dream up any kind of bet I want anytime I'm in the mood. This summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, something for everyone, every day, all summer long. Go to FanDuel.com and start making the most of your summer. FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Went really long there in the first 2 segments. My apologies for that. So we'll only have time for a couple calls and texts. We'll start things off with Jake from Massachusetts. He's calling to talk about training camp and a few issues he's looking at from the quarterback position, JPJ, and also tempering his expectations, and he's going to tell you why. Here he is, Jake from Massachusetts.
Hey, Q, this is Jake from Massachusetts calling. Just calling, talk about a little bit of training camp. Obviously, the pads are, again, put on this week. First, QB situation, we kind of knew this was coming, right? Just abysmal, quarterback options that we have. Aiden O'Connell is a statue, and Gardner Minshew, mobile, but obviously we know what Gardner Minshew is not a elite quarterback or even kind of close to it. But at this point, I think Gardner Minshew might be the best option due to his mobility. That takes me to the next point, which is the linemen, offensive line. I mean, JPJ, they knew that this man had injury problems coming into the draft. They still decided to take him. I'm not hating on the Bowers pick, but there was offensive lineman available then. I think he was a guard. Forgot his name, but so if we don't have an offensive line, we're going to be in trouble regardless. It's going to be just like last year. I don't want to get my hopes up. I've been getting my hopes up this year, but I'm also trying to backpedal a little bit. I mean, yeah, I've got some future bets going. Raiders win total over, AP Coach of the Year, Max Crosby Defensive Player of the Year. I got all those pending, so I'm hopeful, but I also don't want to get too excited because quarterback situation is a nightmare. And JPJ is already hurt. That's a problem. Colin Miller's already hurt. That's a problem. So hopefully, I know it's early. Hopefully, get it back together. But JPJ's hurt during training camp. When it's not even physical out there, what's he gonna do? During the season when they're actually getting hit and being physical. So that's concerning as well. Great dude, but just doesn't stay on the field. So with that being said, I'm excited. Can't wait to get this show on the road. Get the season started, even some preseason football. I think we're like a week away, maybe even less for the Hall of Fame game. So it's exciting. Just want to see some kind of football out there. But that's pretty much it, Q. I'm stay optimistic, but I'm also not going to get too excited and have my hopes and dreams crushed like every other year. But AP is also a game changer, so I'm putting my faith in him as well. That's it, man. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your week. Go Raiders.
Jake, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. The quarterback position is what it is, right? Hopefully, as we just spent a long time, or I spent a long time in segment number 2, talking about someone taking control of the position, they definitely need to do that. JPJ has been a disappointment, and right now he's a concern, right? He's a 6 out of a 10 on a concern level for me. Concussions, they're nothing to shake a stick at, right? That's something that you've got to be very careful, not only for him being able to play, but him just being healthy in general. So that is definitely a disappointment and a concern. It's something that they're going to have to deal with. They're going to have to figure out, and hopefully he's able to return sooner rather than later. It won't be today. Maybe it'll be Friday, but hopefully he's just healthy and good to go. You don't want to suffer and start your career suffering and experiencing multiple concussions. So hopefully that does not happen to Jackson Powers Johnson. But thanks so much, Jake, for the call. I do appreciate you, and I also understand kind of tempering the expectations until proven wrong. Because there's been too many times that even myself, I've been hyped up about a season and then only to be disappointed. So I don't blame anyone for taking their time, just kind of tempering the expectations and waiting to see how it all unravels. So thanks so much for the call. I do appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Gypsy Dodger. Hey, Q, I'm new to the Locked On Raiders podcast. I love it. I got a question for you. I've heard you talk a lot about Cam Richardson, a lot. I love that because I'm a Mississippi State fan. I wanted to see if there's been any impressions yet from the other Raiders rookie from Mississippi State, undrafted free agent Tulu Griffin. That's from Gypsy Dodger. And Gypsy Dodger, thanks so much. Appreciate you listening to the show and becoming a fan of the show and even texting into the show. I definitely appreciate that. Cam Richardson's a guy that we look at all the time. Me, Vinny Bonsignor, we're talking about him all the time. He has all the tools. Eric Allen thinks he has the tools. He's raw right now, but he's got ability. As far as Tulu goes, he's a guy I'm excited to see, and we haven't seen him yet. We haven't seen him out there have an opportunity to do what he does, but I know that at Mississippi State he was really good in the return game. So as much as I've talked about special teams, I think he's got a role that he could play in that if he can get out there and he can get it done. So Tulu's on the roster. I haven't seen him do anything that stands out right now. On Friday, I'll kind of circle him on my roster and make sure I really focus in on him to see if he does anything to stand out. But Gypsy Dodger, thanks so much for the text. I do appreciate you. And we'll close out with a call from Sacktown Mark. He's calling to talk about the quarterback competition and a few factors that he thinks might play a role in the final decision. Here he is, Sacktown Mark.
Hey, Q. This is Sacktown Mark. Apologies, my last call cut off halfway through. But what I was saying is I just wanted to chime in real quick about the quarterback competition. I think a lot of people are looking at Gardner Minshew's mobility as a deciding factor, especially with the offensive line not being complete at the moment. Or, we don't have JPJ, we don't have Colton Miller yet. So those are projected starters, but you never really know how the offensive line's going to do. Maybe they're second, with some second string guys, maybe they'll be pretty good. Who knows? But as of right now, it seems like that'll be kind of a weak point on the offense. So, I think it makes sense to look at Gardner Minshew's mobility as kind of a deciding factor into maybe the decision for who will be the starting quarterback of the team. But I also wanted to suggest another factor, which is Aiden O'Connell's release time. If he gets the ball out faster than Gardner Minshew does, or even faster than he did last year, which would be a huge step in the right direction, in my opinion, I think that would kind of cancel out Gardner Minshew's mobility to an extent. If he can be really accurate and get the ball out fast, obviously that will help out the offensive line, and just the offense in general. And, Aiden O'Connell won't need to be a mobile guy. It won't matter so much. I mean, that's what made Tom Brady so great, right? Is the fact that he was able to get the ball out so fast, even though he was not the most athletic person. So that's one thing I wanted to chime in on. And also, I also wanted to ask you a question, Q. So about 10 years ago, right, we had the quarterback competition between Derek Carr and Matt Schaub. And obviously this quarterback competition is different. But I'm curious because James Jones has said before that everybody in the Raiders offense, knew that Derek Carr should be the starter. He was the best quarterback on the team. But it took the fans a little bit of time to catch up to realize, oh yeah, Derek Carr is our guy. I'm just curious if you think that might be going on right now too for the team, where like the players themselves kind of know which one of the two is better than the other. But the fans and like the media may not really haven't caught up yet or aren't in on the joke, I guess, so to speak. I don't know. Just thought I'd ask you that question too. Just curious if you thought there was any validity to that question. But in any case, thank you for all that you do, Q, and go Raiders.
Mark, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. And look, I don't think Minshew's mobility will be the deciding factor in the competition. I think it plays a role, especially with the success or lack of success of the offensive line. Now, Wednesday, the O-line looked pretty good, right? As far as your question about the team knowing, they can know who they feel like is the better guy for the job. Devontae Adams has mentioned when he talked to us last time when he was at the podium, he was talking about the quarterbacks getting splits, and he said, yeah, right now Aiden's getting the chance with the first team. He gets the reps early, and he said it's a little disappointing because then I'm not getting as much work in with Gardner. I asked Vic Tafur, I was like, was that him saying Gardner is the leader in the clubhouse for the job, or was that just him saying that he wants to get work with both? And Vic Tafur didn't really know, but it was something that stood out to us. Maybe Gardner is the guy. Maybe Aiden's the guy. They could have a much better idea inside the walls than we do outside. But from my vantage point, what I'm seeing, no quarterback has taken the lead in this quarterback competition as of yet. So we'll see. As Antonio Pierce said, it'll be obvious when it's obvious. So right now, I can promise you it's not obvious. So Sacktown Mark, thanks for the call. Appreciate you. Got a text from Ohio Raider in the 419. Raider Sleek got a call from, a text from Southern Indiana Raider, and a call from Northwest Raider. We'll get those all on tomorrow's show as we close out the week really strong. Lincoln Kennedy, the great Lincoln Kennedy, is supposed to be a guest on my radio show later on this afternoon. I'm anticipating that being some really good stuff, so we'll probably bring that to the podcast on Friday as well. And, of course, news and notes, whatever happens. Maybe JPJ gets activated from the PUP list. Maybe Colton Miller comes back. Maybe the Raiders make some roster moves. Whatever the case may be, we'll definitely talk about it as we close out the week on Friday's show. So until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.